talk is on the Vitakkasanthana Sutta, the Sutta on the relaxation of thoughts. And as in everything that the Buddha taught, this comes down to the quality of our thoughts and the quality of our thinking process and what we're holding in mind, or the refined mindfulness that's developed through the Eightfold Path. As we develop the Eightfold Path, we begin to recognize and abandon any type of conditioned thinking that will lead to further confusing experiences and further diluting our thinking process. So as we develop that refined mindfulness and our thinking process and our thoughts relax, we cease following one thought immediately with another thought. Another way of saying that, as we're caught up in delusion, our thoughts can become very agitated, and agitated thoughts tend to cling one to the other, and it becomes almost a self-perpetuating way of thinking. I know one of the ways that people describe that way of thinking is monkey mind, meaning that we've literally lost control of the ability to think what we want to think when we want to think it. And as you'll hear in just a little bit in this short sutta, the Buddha describes this process of awakening of full human maturity, of gaining the ability to think what we want to think when we want to think it, and not driven by self-referential ego views. It's a short sutta, but a very important one that gets right to the heart of the matter. The Vitakkasanthana Sutta. And if you've read this on the website, I'm leaving out most of the introduction and getting right to the sutta. The Buddha was at Savatthi in Jita's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. He addressed those assembled. When one is intent on developing heightened mindfulness, there are 5 qualities of mind they should attend to. When one's thoughts are unskillful and arising from craving and delusion, they should be mindful of their unskillful thoughts in order to abandon unskillful thoughts. Once unskillful thoughts have been abandoned, they can now cultivate skillful thoughts guided by the Eightfold Path. With unskillful thoughts abandoned, one's mind calms and concentration increases. 2, if unskillful thoughts driven by craving and delusion arise again, one should be mindful of the suffering brought by these thoughts, recognizing these thoughts are unskillful and will lead to more confusion, delusion, and stress. Being mindful of the drawbacks, excuse me, I lost my page. Being mindful of the drawbacks of unskillful thoughts, these thoughts can now be abandoned. With unskillful thoughts abandoned, one's mind calms and concentration increases. 3, if unskillful thoughts driven by craving and delusion continue to arise, while being mindful of the drawbacks of these thoughts, one should pay no attention to these thoughts. By mindfully withdrawing attention to unskillful thoughts, these thoughts are abandoned and will subside. With unskillful thoughts abandoned, one's mind calms and concentration increases. 4, if unskillful thoughts driven by craving and delusion continue to arise, while being mindful of the drawbacks of these thoughts, one should focus on relaxing the mental fabrications with regard to unskillful thoughts. With the intentional relaxation of mental fabrications, one's mind calms and concentration increases. 5, if unskillful thoughts driven by craving and delusion continue to arise, while being mindful of relaxing the mental fabrications with regard to unskillful thoughts, one should develop right intention in order to abandon unskillful thoughts with continued refined mindfulness. With the intentional abandonment of unskillful thoughts, one's mind calms and concentration increases. There's a little bit left on that, but I'd like to comment on those 5 steps. There's Nada. Nada's going to log in just a few minutes. She says that she's stuck in traffic. Isn't that interesting that we're communicating with Nada in Sweden, unless she's come out here. So this talk and these teachings by the Buddha show how important it is to develop the individual understanding of how to apply these teachings. In other words, nothing is given to us or nothing is imposed on us from any outside force. The entire Buddha's teaching is about developing an internal understanding of how we create our own confusion, delusion, and suffering. And of course, ultimately that comes down to what we're thinking and what we're holding in mind, the essence of mindfulness. So the refined mindfulness that's developed through the Eightfold Path gives us the ability to encounter troubling thoughts in a direct way and simply recognize them and put them aside. Hello, Kevin. I'll invite you guys on screen in just a minute. The power that is in the Eightfold Path and in the Four Noble Truths is found right in this sutta. It is within our ability to change the way that we think and to hold in mind those thoughts and those thought constructs framed by the Eightfold Path that will develop a life of lasting peace and happiness. It's up to each and every one of us. I'll conclude the sutta. My dog is looking for some attention too. Maybe I'll bring him on screen later. Why don't you lay down? Come on, lay down. Cool, lay down. The Buddha concludes the sutta. Now, when a practitioner recognizes unskillful thoughts, understands unskillful thoughts, paying no mind to unskillful thoughts, attending to the relaxation of mental fabrications with regard to those thoughts, and using right mindfulness and right intention to steady their mind, settle their mind, they unify their mind and concentrate their mind right within. So the Buddha is also referring to, in a general sense, clinging, and in a very specific sense, clinging one thought to the next thought. And that's another function of a self-referential ego self. A self-referential ego self, or that which the Buddha calls anatta, not a self, insists on establishing itself in every thought that occurs. And so every thought becomes a clinging thought and a self-referential thought. As we develop the ability to relax our thoughts and recognize that type of clinging thinking that's rooted in ignorance, we gain the ability to, as the Buddha describes, think what we want to think when we want to think it, which also means we're able to hold in mind the qualities that continually deliver a life of lasting peace and happiness. The Buddha continues. This is a person with mastery of thought sequences. This person thinks what they want whenever they want and does not think what is unskillful. It's such a powerful line. I know every one of us has had the experience, and probably more often than we'd like, to being caught in a train of thought that we can't seem to get out of it, and it increases in its agitation the more we hold it in mind, and we just can't get out of it because we don't have the proper framework to see it within that refined mindfulness, and so can act accordingly. And what the Buddha is really teaching here is recognizing these troubled mind states and simply abandon them. And we abandon them by relaxing. Let me finish the sutta. I'm going to go back that one line. This person thinks what they want whenever they want and does not think what is unskillful. This practitioner has severed craving and has brought an end to suffering and stress. And that's the end of the sutta. So each moment holds that potential that at least in this moment, we can interrupt or sever clinging, and at least in this moment, develop that peaceful and calm mind. As we deepen our development of the Eightfold Path and understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the ability to continue that process, in other words, to maintain that refined mindfulness, increases until eventually we let go of all self-referential thoughts, and we develop a life of lasting peace and happiness that's rooted in thinking what we want to think whenever we want to think it. And another way of saying that is we fully develop right view. We fully develop the Eightfold Path at that point. Along the way, and I talked a little bit about this last night at the Tuesday night class in the Dana Sutta, and I'll put that talk up a little later today. We develop the ability to recognize that all of human life and all of physical life is in a constant process of becoming. And that points to the potential of each moment. So in each moment, we have the potential to incline our minds towards awakening, towards full human maturity, or to continue ignorance and confusion, delusion, and ongoing suffering. And that is rooted in what we're holding in mind. And the Vitakkasanthana Sutta points directly to that. So that's the end of today's talk. I'd like to invite you both, Kevin and Lynn are here. Nada hasn't shown up yet, but maybe she will. Invite you on screen and see if you have any questions. And ladies first. So Lynn, if you'd like to join us, and you can, please do so. You should get that in just a moment. And Kevin, I'd like to invite you on too. So I hope you can both join us.
Hey.
There's Lynn.
Hi.
So nice to see your smiling face.
Nice to see you, John.
How are you today?
I'm good. Very good. Thank you for the teaching. I read it a couple of times on the website. It's life is just a continuous opportunity for practice. So it's always good to be able to go back to your website and read different things and calm myself.
Yeah. And it's such a simple and direct teaching, but most of the teachings are. There's Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, how are you?
Do you two remember each other? It's the first time Kevin's been on here. So.
Yeah.
This is the first time. Yeah, I'm kind of goofing off in my office here, but this is important. So my livelihood.
I'm goofing off too. So.
I'm retired. I goof off for a living now.
Pardon me?
I said I'm retired, so I goof off for a living now.
Good for you. Do you have any questions or comments about? I'm talking to Lynn right at the moment.
Just a comment. It's just funny how your mind goes off on these things. I'm pretty careful about what I think about. It'll just creep up on you. Like Sunday morning, I opened the drapes at the front of my house, and there in the middle of the driveway was my mailbox, because the little teenage vandals that go around Saturday night with the baseball bat had knocked it clean off the post. And my first thought was, no, I don't need this crap. I'm going to call a real estate agent and put my house on the market, and then I'm on the internet looking at things, how to deter vandals. And I'm seeing these horrible suggestions like fill your mailbox with concrete.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really bad stuff. And so probably after about half an hour of just. Anybody else hear that?
Yeah, my computer's making an unfriendly sound at the moment.
Okay, well, it's not just me then. But anyway, long story short, after I was able to get a hold of my mind and watch all the places that it had gone and all the different emotional moods that it took me through, from anger to despair to frustration, I finally ended up just laughing about the whole thing when I was able to see what I was doing, watching all the thought processes, little fabrications and stories that my brain was doing over this silly mailbox instance. But it is frustrating.
Yeah.
In 2 months that I've had to replace that mailbox.
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating, and all of that is part of the first noble truth. In other words, the kids are, the whole situation, and it's simply part of life occurring. And when we can see it within them, and that's part of developing that right view, it's not that we think it's such a wonderful experience now, but we just see it as it clearly is. The children are deluded in their thinking to do that. The idea of putting concrete in your mailbox is another deluded thought, but it's all part of that type of mindlessness that comes from not understanding. But thank you for sharing that, Lynn. All right, Kevin, how are you today? And good to see you. We missed your class last night.
Yeah, apologies, I couldn't make that, so I'll be. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was getting this computer to approve access here, so it took me a minute. But yeah, I'm looking forward to your talk from last night. And I really like this talk, or this sutta, because I keep replaying it in my mind, or when you say the words that what we hold in mind is going to sort of determine our experience. You can hold those hardened views and reactions and things to worldly causes and conditions like dukkha, and end up in a worse place than we could be, which would be to let it go and with right intention, to let those clinging and craving views and reactions to dukkha go, and you have that moment to incline towards the awakening. Awakening and delusion. So I like the awakening side. So yeah, really appreciate the talk.
Yeah, I like the awakening too. It looks like Nada joined us. Let me see if I can get her on screen if she'd like to join us. Nada, come on and join us if you can. I think we can have 4 people on screen at once, so let's see if she can connect. There's Nada. Hello, Nada. So nice to see you again. How are you in Sweden still?
I'm still in Sweden. I was stuck in traffic. Now I made it home.
I'm glad you made it home. I hope it wasn't too big of a rush. Yeah, so you didn't have a chance to hear today's talk.
No, unfortunately.
The Vitakka, it's a very short sutta. It's about the Buddhist teachings on how to recognize and abandon, excuse me, agitated mind states, and it really gets down to the intentional act of recognizing those agitating mind states, and through right intention, simply relax our thoughts and gain control of our thinking. And you can say that in a very realistic way. The entire Dhamma is about developing the ability to recognize and abandon troubling mind states or self-referential mind states and develop a life of lasting peace and happiness. This very short sutta gets right to the heart of the matter. So, I'll post this online, and there's also another talk on the website on the Vitakkasanthana Sutta that you can listen to too. So, how's your practice going now?
My practice is good. From last week's talk, at work, I've been aware of eye making and being present in the moment to say, no, that's eye making, and no, I can let go. And that's really good, very helpful.
Yeah, it is. And anytime we find ourselves caught up in anything, agitation or desire, tanha, thirst, it's always helpful to recognize that this is not me, this is not mine, this is not who I am. And it immediately begins to interrupt any further conditioned thinking and brings us back into this present moment. Such a powerful thought that the Buddha mentions throughout the Pali Canon too. So I got to say, I'm really pleased that this technology is working and we're able to establish a connection and we can all be online for this class. I think it's great. So any other questions or comments about today's class or the Dhamma in general? Oh, you're all good? My computer is making a sound, and I'm not going to disconnect to fix it, but can you hear it? Can you hear this kind of, it's actually the fan on my computer. Is it bothersome?
I can hear a staticky kind of sound.
It's probably coming from
Not.
that. Well, I hope we can meditate. I'll try to correct whatever this is by next week. But so let's meditate, and then I'd just like to check in with you again. I'll invite you back on screen after the meditation, and then we'll finish with metta. So I'm going to take you off screen while we meditate. I'll invite you back on in just a minute. So here we go. See you, Lynn. See you, Kevin. See you, Nada. So let's meditate. We'll have a 20-minute Shamatha Vipassana meditation session. So gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And again, I hope this background sound isn't too distracting. And holding your back straight but not stiff, your ears aligned with your shoulders, your nose aligned with your navel. Holding yourself very loosely, very gently, very lovingly. Allow yourselves to settle into this room. Settle into your bodies and settle into your minds. And take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. Just get a feel for what that's like. To be mindful of your breath in your body. And while remaining mindful of your breath in your body, notice if thoughts are flowing. Or conscious beings' thoughts should be flowing. The purpose of Shamatha Vipassana meditation is to not be distracted by our own thoughts. So when you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, excuse me, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. I'll repeat that. When you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 20 minutes. Callbacks every 5. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. Relaxing thoughts, and getting mindful of our breathing. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. If a persistent thought or feeling arises, stay with it for a moment or two, recognize it as impermanent, and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. You will meditate for 5 more minutes. Take a moment to notice the quality of your mind. Be at peace with your mind. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. So I'd like to invite you all back on the screen. And I'll start with Nada and Lynn and Kevin. Hope you can all join us in a little talk before we finish. I wonder if you're having trouble. I think this happened last week. The second time I wasn't able to get you back on screen, so I'm thinking that I'm going to try it once more. There might be a problem here. Oh, there's Kevin. Let's see if I can get Lynn. And I'll reprompt Nada. So, well, let's see if I can get that little glitch worked out. And how was your meditation?
It was great. It was a nice break to my office day here. So I'm glad I was able to join, and I really appreciate what you're doing here. And it was nice because I wasn't able to sit last night with the Sangha, but felt I was able to engage in the Dhamma today. So I liked it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. This is really wonderful to be able to develop this online Sangha. So we're here from New Jersey, Florida, and all the way to Sweden. So I hope we continue. Again, I guess Nada and Lynn weren't able to reconnect. So thank you for joining today. I think next week's topic is going to be on the 5 clinging aggregates. But if you have any suggestions for topics, just send me an email and we'll get to it. So let's finish with Metta. Kevin, I'll see you soon.
Okay.
I'll take you off screen too. We'll finish with the Buddha's words on Metta.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Let's see how I do this. Let's see. Oh, there it is. See you, Kevin. So the Buddha's words on Metta to conclude our class today. Excuse me. So metta is both an aspiration for those of us on the path, and it's the ongoing expression of an awakened, fully mature human being. And these are the Buddha's words on metta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, content and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and no will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you for joining today. Peace. Yeah, it was a beautiful day. I'm sorry it's so cold there. You have a wonderful day. Sorry about not being able to get you back on screen. I'll see if I can find out why that's occurring, and we'll get it straightened out. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Peace.
Hey, John, I just wanted to tell you, my pop-up invitation comes up in a different place the second time, I have to scroll down off your face to find it. So that's why I couldn't get back on. I don't know what's up with Nada's, but
yeah, okay. Well, I'll see why that occurs, and maybe if I remember, I'll just give the instruction to look for it.
yeah, I just started scrolling around when I realized Kevin was on. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to be on. So when I just scrolled down, I found you there. So.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Okay.
It's pretty remarkable technology, don't you think?
Oh, it is. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was talking about this the other day. I know we're going on a little bit on the video cast, but I grew up in a time when if you wanted to talk to somebody and they weren't right in front of you, you had to get on the landline phone.
Yeah.
And now we can do something like this all over the world. It's remarkable.
Oh, my mother just lives 4 miles from me. She's always after me to Skype with her because she doesn't want to hold her phone. I said, Mom, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's a little bit too silly. I'll see you tomorrow. You can see me in person.
Yeah,
I'll drive.
That's right. Are you still thinking of moving up to North Carolina? I know the last time we talked.
I'm really fatigued with the humidity in Florida. This part of Florida it's more like Georgia. It's cloyingly humid through probably 8 months of the year. And as I get older, I find I'm not able to deal with that as well as I once could. So I love the heat, just not the humidity. And yeah, it was beautiful in North Carolina when we were there.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous. So yeah, I'm thinking about it. I don't know. We'll see what Mom wants to do.
Yeah.
I kind of look after her, so as long as she's still around, I'll kind of have to be where she's living. Not with her, but in the vicinity. So
it's a very skillful way of being too. So good for you, and good for your mom. So.
That's okay. I have 3 brothers, and they all have families. They have wives. They have grown children. They have grandchildren. So, and I'm single and childless. So it's easier for me to look after her.
Yeah. But you're doing it too. So. Well, it's so nice to see you again. Again, if you have any topics that you'd like me to discuss, send me an email. Let me know. I hope to see you next week.
Yes, you will. And I'm sorry about being behind in the study submissions. I went down a rabbit hole with the no self thing.
Well,
I read your book and then I think, I need a little more clarification. And then I get on the internet and many different Buddhist websites and start reading around, and I get a lot of information, but not more clarification. And I think I just start going off in different directions with, okay, I know what not self is according to the teachings, but then what is self? And then you go to the whole soul, no soul thing. And then, I'm off on tangents like, well, do animals have souls? And my nephew just celebrated his 17th birthday, and I was there when he was born. I was his caretaker at nighttime for the first 2 weeks of his life. I went up to Ohio and took care of him. So I've like seen him develop and grow. And so looking at, if all we are is just a series of connected mental and biological processes, and there's no soul or there's no essence behind that, I find that disturbing. And I don't know if that's that Catholic thing still hanging on off under the side of the soul, and we're special. I don't know. Like I said, I went down a rabbit hole.
Well, first, always feel free to, I know you know this, to send me an email and just ask me for some clarification on something like that. But that's one of the ongoing problems that the Buddha even addressed. At the top of my head, I can't think of the sutta. There's a few that directly address proper questions and improper questions, and it's these improper questions that lead us down a rat hole. And it really comes down to trying to establish a self where a self can't be established. In other words, getting pondering, what is a soul and do I have a soul? And when those questions were put to the Buddha, he said, it's the questions themselves that are confusing you. Put them aside because they don't lead to the goal of developing understanding. And ultimately, what you can understand through the teachings is that what we are. The teachings on anatta, not a self, say that what we think of ourselves is not a self, let go of the views. And what is developed then is an understanding that what we are is in a constantly ongoing process of becoming. And there's nothing that we can point to that is permanent, including a soul, an individual soul that is mine. And so all that we can relate to is that ongoing process. And that points to the potential of each moment. What am I going to give birth to in this next moment? Is it going to be something that is informed by the Four Noble Truths, by true understanding? Or is it going to be something that is informed by ignorant views that are prone to speculation, such as, what am I now? What am I becoming? Where am I going? Is the universe infinite or finite? All of those questions are a distraction. Even though a lot of modern Buddhism seeks to answer the questions that the Buddha himself said put aside because they don't lead to the Buddha. But we all want to know those things too. It's our egos do anyway. It's hard to.
And they're unknowable. There are no answers.
Exactly. That's why you can't know it. But what you can know is the experience of what life is like as life occurs. And you can gain a profound understanding of dukkha and the distraction that craving and clinging develops in our lives. And that's the point of the Dhamma. So I hope you get back into the course. And then if you feel any reason to go back a couple of chapters, do that. You know, if picking it up that way would be helpful to you.
Yeah, it's just I do this with everything. Something interests me, and I'll just get hyper focused on it and go off on reading tangents. That the internet's really bad for me for that. I used to have to go to the library when I was younger. And there was the internet. I would go to the library and I just go through the stacks and find books and sit there and just read about whatever, you know.
I know. Yeah.
Archaeology.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, especially with my when I first got into the study of Buddhism, and for many years, anything that had the Buddhist label on, I grabbed onto it, I clung to it, and I tried to understand it. What I found was most of it was more of a distraction than anything else. But it's all part of developing understanding.
Yeah, education is a good thing. You just have to not get sucked into identifying yourself with all the different things that you read.
Yes, that's the key. Well, again, so good to see you again today. I hope I see you next week. And again, any questions, then just feel free to send me an email.
Okay, I will. Thanks, John. Are you going to be able to edit all this out of your recording?
I think so. If not, we'll have a conversation on it for the world to see. That's a good conversation.
Okay.
Take care, Elaine. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, John.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's nuts.